Hello, 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 assalamu alaikum, jiayanu, pakhera gale, ni hao ma, chune shume, washmale, ohaya gunzaimas, hi, hugs and hellos, and plus Guten Morgen, which we learned yesterday as well. Thank you very much for tuning into PT World. You watching World this morning, alongside Shazad and Mine, for everybody who tuned into
Maha.
PTV. Yeah, that's what I
No,
said,
you
Maha.
didn't.
Hello, Maha, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
And for everybody who's tuned into PTV Global, thank you very much for tuning in. We hope that wherever you are, probably whether you are in UK, USA, Europe, Asia, South Asia, Africa, wherever you guys are watching us, a very good morning and positive vibes coming your way. How are you, Maha? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you too. I'm glad it's Friday, but not because of any other reason, but because the show is very important.
Yeah, it is very important, and today's show is very important because of the fact that we have got two important days to share or probably talk about. And whenever we discuss a day, that this is the day which is being observed, the only reason is that we spread awareness amongst you people, because majority of the people do not know what day it is, other than knowing that it's just Friday.
Exactly, and the thing is, at the end of the day, there's a lot of things we take for granted. When you have something, you don't appreciate it. And there are a lot of people, as we know, physically, they don't have things. And within Pakistan, the healthcare system, the nutrition, levels, they're not up to scratch. And, a lot of people are suffering. And majority of the people, have more problems than not having problems within this country. So it's very important that we raise awareness of this. And Shazad, what are we talking about today?
Okay, so recently what we have been discussing about has been malnourishment, then inclusive education, and then other than that, we have been talking about visual impairments as well.
Yes, quite a bit.
So, ladies and gentlemen, on Thursday, yesterday, it was the World Sight Day, and when we talk about World Sight Day strives to bring out awareness about all those people who are visually impaired, and this year's theme was Stronger Together, and they called in for a photo shoot type of thing, or probably photographers on board, and they said that you can take pictures and then spread them with your hashtags which are Stronger Together. So it was yesterday, quite a lot of people posted pictures, and it was all over the internet as well. But then, since on Saturday we do not have a show, that's another important day, which is the White Cane Day. Now, this day is obviously for all those people who are visually impaired or probably blind. And now the importance of white cane, it is there, but half of the time we do not know. We live in a country where the infrastructure does not support their daily commutes as well. So to spread awareness, we are here, and then at the same time on White Cane Day, we strive to make them independent and so that they could do their own work and give back to the society.
Exactly, and a couple of weeks ago, we did have some people who are working with the rural communities and with anyone actually who is suffering from visual impairment and trying to integrate them back into society. But today, to discuss what Shazad has just told you guys, we've been joined by some wonderful guests in the studio, and they're going to talk about the current situation, what's being done, and how can we make it better, and which organizations and areas of society have to work together.
And the best part is that one of the guests is already panicking. It's all right, you'll be fine.
No, everyone's good. So, we've been joined by Bashir Malik. He is the chairman of Bin Kutta Foundation, and he mainly deals within the rural healthcare. Assalamu alaikum, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Besides Mr. Bashir Malik, we have been joined by Nidal Khan. She is an educationist. Assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much for coming over. Relax, take a deep breath.
Yeah, everyone's
it's
relaxed,
perfectly
don't
all
say
right.
that.
Do you want a cup of tea?
Thank you so much.
I'll only get it for you.
Well, I want one. Okay.
All right, it's coming.
Okay, besides Ms. Nidal Khan, we've been joined by Mr. Munawar Hussain, who is the National Program Manager for the Food Fortification Program. Assalamu alaikum, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for coming over.
Okay, so I'm going to start the questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm going to start with you, Mr. Bashir. The importance of highlighting, this is our generic question for awareness days, but why for Pakistan specifically, especially within the more developed areas of Pakistan, do we need to know what the situation is rurally?
True. Thank you very much. In fact, it's a very, very important subject. When it comes to eyes, either you can see it or you don't see it, simply. So the subject is very important, the day is very important, both the Sight Day and the White Cane Day. Referring to the rural area, as I always say, that the majority of your population in Pakistan, they live in the rural area. And when it comes to the sight, one is what is the problem, and it exists, but what is the density? And Then one is the awareness. And
So what is the density? That's the thing. So tell us
huge
about it.
big,
Okay.
huge big.
Okay.
I tell you, if we refer only the blinds in Pakistan, I mean the survey and the estimates could be debated, but it could be somewhere between 1.5 million to 2 million blinds in Pakistan.
Okay, so yeah, people.
And then when it comes to rural area, majority lives there, so majority of the blinds, they are in the rural area.
Okay.
And then out of it again, 50% of the blinds are needing cataract operations.
Right.
So half of it, roughly 1 million Pakistani, they need cataract operations.
Okay.
And again 50% means 500,000 people need cataract operation in the rural area and no resources.
Okay. So
Alright.
that's the situation for the rural community.
Okay, so then we'll move on to you about this as well. How do you see that, how would you like to highlight the importance of this day? And why do you think that we need to spread awareness about it?
I think I would mostly, first of all, many of our viewers may not be very aware of the philosophy behind probably why World Sight Day or why World White Cane Day is celebrated. As I see it, as any common man would see it, it's an opportunity to give back to the visually impaired persons around us. It's an opportunity for their independence, and I think I'll take it on mostly for the accessibility. We live in communities, we are well aware that with education and schools being far away, accessibility is a big problem that is just not faced by the visually impaired, but also by most of our students. And so this is where the White Cane Day and the Sight Day comes into importance, that we need to raise an awareness, make the environment around visually impaired persons safe for them, whether they are in their homes, whether they are on the road commuting, be it through our buses, be it in our schools, or be it in our office spaces.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's talking about making it a safer place for the visually impaired so that they are able to go about their routine activities with minimum support.
Okay, great. Okay, now, so that means that there's a lot of things that need to be fixed. So like the structural situation, then the education system, so that people are included. But let's get deeper into the conversation. So let me ask you, Mr. Munawar, in regards to the causes leading to blindness, like we're saying, majority of people within the rural community suffer. What are the causes, in your opinion, that are causing this situation?
Thank
In
you
regards
so
to
much.
food.
Yeah.
Let me highlight the importance of the malnutrition. That is, and quote something from World Health Organization.
Sure.
Yeah.
World Health Organization says that vitamin A deficiency is the leading cause of visual impairment and the blindness. And the data that has been shared, every year globally around 500,000 new children are becoming blind due to vitamin A deficiency.
Okay.
And even the worst part is that within the 12 month, half of them could not survive.
Okay.
And because the vitamin A deficiency not only impact on their visual impairment, but also it's the immunity against disease becomes so low, and the survival of the children become really a challenge.
Okay.
And by addressing that, we can prevent even 23% of the child mortality as well.
Okay.
Let me just give you one fact related to Pakistan as well. There was a national nutrition survey that was published by government of Pakistan in 2013. The survey was conducted in 2011. It's the published study that every second children in Pakistan has vitamin A deficiency.
Right.
54% of the Pakistani population is vitamin A deficient. So you can imagine that the risk behind this issue is we are really at a very alarming situation, in fact. And this, if we prevent this and address this vitamin A deficiency, we could make a major impact on.
But I think the first thing which pops up in your head is, why is this deficiency there? And why just vitamin A? I think there are many other deficiencies as well, but you know, for example, if you're talking about, you know, white cane
Vision.
day, which has to do quite a lot with visual impairment, why is this deficiency there? What are we not eating right?
If we look at, unfortunately, over the last 40 years, the situation of malnutrition overall in Pakistan has deteriorated. And this is great that government of Pakistan has took this initiative of conducting this national nutrition survey that was done after 10 years. And that has opened lots of debate on that, why the situation has not been improved in Pakistan. And food and nutrition is important, and we normally listen about the balanced diet, and the balanced diet is where we need to take all ingredients of the food that are necessary for our body to grow properly. And unfortunately, there are so many factors due to which we are unable to get the desired food and nutrition that is required. And one of them are our eating habits as well. Like we do not take balanced food, we cook so much to our food, and sometimes the access to the nutritious food is not available. And another important part is the awareness to the people about different.
Okay, so is it the mothers who are not eating proper food, or is it the kids? Because you said that, you know, probably when a kid is born, within a month or 2 months' time, they get visually impaired just because of the deficiency. If that's happening, that means that the mother's not eating something right, right?
True.
Does it relate to the mother?
That's
Okay.
true.
And if I may just add here, I think a very important component is the gender factor to it. Generally, when we look at households within our country, and especially the far-flung and the rural, we see that their economic threshold or the income, the monthly income of an average Pakistani family is not sufficient enough to feed the number of kids there. For example, if we look at most of our population index, the number of children is between 4 to 5. And in order for a family to feed all their kids appropriately is a task that is way beyond them. And from then onwards, of course, when we talk about some cultural norms, we also look at the fact that within a certain family and a limited income, it is always the boys that get the better share. And whereas the girls and of course, if we're talking about visually impaired children, they are the ones that are really lagging behind, and their share is at the minimum.
Unfortunately, it's true. I mean, I will have to agree with you guys as well that obviously there are quite a lot of people, they live behind that bar or probably below that bar where poverty strikes you as well, and then having 4 or 5 kids, obviously it becomes very difficult, and especially when you've got a special child at home as well. So it is very tough to look after the kids and then, you know, to probably finance their food, and malnourishment obviously comes alongside. But Bashir Saab, talking about rural areas, what are the most common problems within the rural areas related to visual impairment, and why are people not aware of it?
Because Nadala just mentioned a few factors.
Yeah,
like, you know,
yeah.
the
In
boys
fact,
get the
you
better
mentioned
share.
about, you said why is the deficiency A?
Yeah.
I would say the mother of diseases is poverty. This is number one. And the second thing is illiteracy. And then again, the majority of the population in the rural, poverty, illiteracy. When they combine, so it is A or B or C, you can expect anything. So what is the solution then? One side is the prevention. And then there are so many organizations working in the rural and the urban areas as well, fine. But the more focused need is the rural. And then there is a lack of resources both on the public sector and the other civil societies who are not focusing on the rural area. Why I say they are not focusing particularly the civil society, because civil society, they have a lot to do in the urban area as well, and they only depend on the donors. The donors are very happy in the urban area because wherever they donate, they can see it right away in the cities what's happening.
Yeah.
So it's a huge, big task for the civil society to attract, pursue, and bring the donors and the supporters and the stakeholder, even the public sector, to the rural area. Now, Talking to the solution, I tell you, my suggestion is that all the diseases, all the deadly diseases, they are there. But then eyes, malnutrition, they are basics. So what we have started now as a Binkuta Foundation in our Chakwal area, we have started registry of diseases and disabilities in our area. And now with the support of our donors and friends, we have now targeted for next 6 months 10,000 students of Chakwal government schools children for their complete medical checkup, but focusing more on the eyes and provision of the glasses wherever they are needed. This is one. Again, I tell you, the most important thing for all of us to note, and it's very alarming, that 500,000 people needs cataract operations and they can't afford it. So the resources, I firmly believe, as we are practicing it in the rural area, people are available, they are there to support. Only we have to pursue them, bring them, and maybe
Okay.
one person can take care of 10 operations.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
you know that
We have started now 1,000 cataract operation for the poor in Chakwal area.
How much does this
and we
operation
hoping to
cost?
finish it in the next 6 months.
So how much does this operation cost?
Well, it varies, but roughly 6,000 to 10,000 rupees.
6
Not
to
much.
10,000 rupees
Yeah.
and people cannot afford
Yeah.
it?
In Potwa region, in Rawalpindi, which is Rawalpindi division, we are estimating that around 35 to 40,000 cataract operations are required.
Okay.
And I'm sure we can do it.
Okay,
We'll
and
do
that's
it.
the thing, and
Very
it's
nice.
so there's a solution there, and
There is a solution. There is a
so
solution.
there needs to be more awareness being brought onto it. Now, okay, so that's the rural area, and that's one aspect of it. But I want to. This is, I think, really important because we now are talking about solutions, but we skipped over the education system. Now we know the rural situation, you know, needs a lot of work and a lot of focus, but within the urbanized areas as well, you have people who are, you know, who are visually impaired, who, you know, cannot see. How is the education for them? Are we providing them the proper education for them to get out into life? Can they go to university? You know, does the education system provide them basically a normal life?
Because this is what is the epitome of the White Cane Day as well, that we have to make them independent so that they give back to the society. But unfortunately, the infrastructure over here within Pakistan does not really allow them to commute on their own as well. They need a helper or a supporter. And then we have a quota system for special people as well, right? For all those special children and for all those visually impaired, that, you know, okay, 2 seats in an office, 3 seats in an office. Why can't the system be inclusive?
Well, let me talk about, firstly, I think I'll begin by the very simple message that education is the best gift that you can give to a visually impaired person.
To everyone, in fact.
To everyone, of course. Whereas that is a statement that we make, yet we all know and realize that Pakistan is one of the nations who is still lagging behind in terms of the Millennium Development Goals and in meeting the education targets. The education targets for basic education as well as for higher education. So these are dilemmas with which we operate. But having taken these dilemmas even into account, there's a lot of work that has begun to take place, and where we need to beef up support so that we can have people who really can give back to society. I would just take the example of the social stigma that we also face culturally also. I think if we look at visually impaired persons, the degree of their impairment sometimes really is an obstacle. And just for parents and communities to accept that their child has begun wearing glasses or whose vision is being impaired is something that really they have to deal with from within the communities. So I think raising an awareness and doing something for the parents, for the communities, and for the schools, so that visually impaired persons are accepted and they are supported within the community. Of course, the accessibility of issues is a major challenge. This is where a lot of work needs to be done. Our commute areas, our offices need to be more friendly,
Okay.
so that it can support people.
Okay, but we will discuss that. But what I want to know is, I want to be more specific now. I want to talk about the education system.
Right.
Being an educationist, what is the situation for people with visual impairment?
Well,
Do we have a
education-
braille system? Do we have
Absolutely.
audiobooks? What are we doing?
Education braille system is very weak.
Okay.
This is where a lot of work needs to go into place, you know, where different departments such as the Education Ministry, the Ministry for Special Education, and different CSOs and donors can come together where we agree on a certain curriculum and a braille system, so that that can be easily picked up by NGOs, by CSOs, by the social
And braille is
private
still
sector.
relevant, and braille is still relevant in regards to education for visually impaired people.
Unfortunately, we are lagging behind when it comes to e-technologies related to the visually impaired, and audio technologies. Pakistan is still lagging behind.
Okay, we know we're lagging behind. We understand that. But what I want to know is that, are these systems available? Are people working on
Because
it?
we think that braille system's getting a bit obsolete
No,
now.
so
and
that's
people are
what
picking
we're trying
up
to
on
raise
newer
awareness. So
technology.
what is out there right now,
What
and where
we
should
have,
we be?
Yes, what we have is through e-learning, through the virtual university, through Allama Iqbal universities, we have TV stations, you know, and dedicated hours that have been for the visually impaired
great.
persons. And I think the new thing where the private sector would be most interested is the mobile technology, which can be put into use, and these are very cheap solutions to a problem that is looming ahead. It's a solution that can really go to the homes of the visually impaired, where they do not.
But this is some point where I don't agree, and I'm very sorry to stop you over there as well. Now, all of the companies, all of the high-tech companies which are coming up with solutions for the people who cannot hear, who cannot see, who cannot talk, all of those solutions which are coming out are very expensive. Now, for example, if a family cannot afford it, an operation which costs 6,000 to 10,000 rupees, I don't think that they can probably afford an iPhone with Siri talking to them,
Or even a
right?
key phone
Or
or-
probably, or any other cell phone or any other technology. So in what ways, how do you think that we can make sure that everybody will be going to work and then they would know how to do it or how to go around it?
I think one economical solution is radio. Radio is still the lifeline for many visually impaired persons.
it is.
It is something that wherever you are, and the geographical spread of Pakistan is such that, yes, I agree that Wi-Fi and email may not be accessible. In fact, we are at a stage where even electricity is also an issue. So I think the radio is a very powerful and a medium which can be taken up. Secondly, I think, yes, iPhones and smartphones are expensive, but we are on the way, and with companies such as IBM who have been involved in education in Pakistan, we're looking at simpler tablets which can be used specifically for the purpose of spreading the education curriculum.
Wonderful. Okay, so now let me bring Mr. Munawar back into the conversation. You're the program manager of the Food Fortification Program. Now, we talked about the malnutrition within the rural communities. We talked about figures and the situation. Now, what is being done, in regards to making this, raising the awareness, teaching the mothers and the fathers and these small-knit communities that it's very imperative to have a healthy, balanced diet, because otherwise your whole lives are going to be ruined?
Thank you so much. In fact, to me, the intervention should start even for blindness much earlier than the children become actually blind. And the good news is that the room for prevention is very high, and we could prevent even becoming children impaired, and simply by improving the status of a nutrition.
Okay.
And food fortification program, in fact, would be focusing on the two major interventions. One would be that would have a huge impact even in preventing the children getting blind.
Okay.
That would be we would support fortification of edible oil in ghee with vitamin A.
Okay.
And we are starting from this year, and we would gradually expand to the whole Pakistan, and starting from the first 3 districts in the year 1. That would be Lahore, Rawalpindi and Islamabad. And we would provide support to the industry that is producing edible oil and ghee, to make sure that they are adding the adequate quantity of vitamin A, and we would also work closely with the government to make sure that the regulatory enforcement system is strong enough to make sure that the product that is coming out is as per standards.
Wonderful. That's
And
the good news.
the vitamin A is reaching to the children and the mothers. You were earlier talking about the mothers. In fact, the problem starts from the mothers, and the last trimester is very important because the requirement of vitamin A increases during the last trimester, and if the mother is not getting a right quantity of the vitamin A, that really where the trouble starts.
Okay.
And on the other side, there are some other solutions as well. Like once if we diagnose it early, like in schools, we do not have a formal screening system. There are some systems where the students are screened to identify visually impaired children. And if we have been able to screen and provide early support to them, that where we could really make a difference, and the glasses or the other things.
And I
that
think
could be
that's a very
provided.
great point made as
Great.
well. And for all those parents who are out there, I was lucky to go to a college where, you know, after every year, whenever you're moving into the next class, they would do a medical screening test of every child who's going to go outside, you know, probably who's progressing. But then at the same time, what happens is, the irony is that over here, we just don't feel like going or probably, you know, getting ourselves checked, just because of the fact that we think that we are particularly all right, or we are fine, or, you know, there's no problem with us. But eventually, you know, when we get to know that we are sick, we are so sick that we cannot even recover. That's what the problem is. So please make sure that, you know, you make it a habit. After every 6 months, go to the doctor, get yourself checked. But now, sir, moving on to, you know, since we're talking about the vitamin deficiency only, what are the other deficiencies? What are the other things which can cause blindness or visual impairment as well?
There are, in fact, if we see that in particularly related to food, the leading cause, in fact, is the vitamin A deficiency. And once we move on, then it's important that if we actually identify the children through screenings, and that is the second step. And the third step is, in fact, if the children, due to some reason, one or other reason, we could not identify, and the children, the blindness happened, then I think our intervention should be to, as my colleague has also mentioned, and the best thing that we could do is we could make sure that the education for them is
No, that's a great point, but I think, for example, if a child is not visually impaired, but he is on that path and we do not get him or her checked, I think it's the parents' negligence. Because half of the time, whenever you go to see a doctor, they'll tell you that, you know, okay, you are supposed to wear spectacles, and please make sure that you wear them purposely, because of the fact that if you're not going to wear them, your eyesight will get weaker and weaker day by day. Now, first of all, parents do not ensure whether the kid's wearing it or not, because the kids are like, okay, we're not wearing it, we don't feel comfortable. It takes time, gradually they start wearing it as well. So for all those things which we can do, which are in our hand, I think it is essential for us to do that. But
It
then,
is.
are there any rehabilitation processes going on that, okay, this is how we can rehabilitate a person who cannot see or who's visually impaired? Because earlier the other day we had a lady, a very fine young lady who was working with the organization, and she had a cell phone who was talking
She's
to
done her
her,
master's,
and she
she's a
knew
teacher.
she's done her PhD. She did her PhD, yeah.
Okay.
She did her master's, she did her PhD, audiobooks were available to her. I forgot the name of the foundation which was working with her and many other kids as well. I think we
It's
will
on our
post it on
Facebook
our
page.
Facebook page. It is over there. So I think this is what needs to be done. So now, for example, your organization, before, you know, I'll come back to you, but your organization, do you guys look into the process of rehabilitating all of those people who are visually impaired?
Yes, it's very important. What we have been discussing before is bringing awareness and then education. You see, we must understand first, the basic point is who are your beneficiaries, whom you want to support. Majority, they are illiterate.
Yes.
Majority, they are poor. So the high-tech gadgets and all the arrangements through which we can plan, rather my suggestion will be that the best solution is to bring the awareness and pursue and support is person-to-person contact. So let the federal government, provincial governments, And then the other organizations, the civil societies, philanthropists, and all those. Let them put a rural on their priority, and then there could be hundreds and hundreds of workers in any capacity who should be in person-to-person contact, particularly in the rural area, and pursue them. So on one side, you are providing jobs to hundreds and hundreds of other workers. On the other side, you can bring really good results.
Okay.
Then again, then Shahzad, you said rehabilitation. Yes, very, very important. Doing catech operation is one of the rehabilitation. To place the resources and first of all register them. How many they are? You know, we have just estimated 500,000 person in Pakistan. But then on our side of our own organization, which is Vinkuta Foundation, we are now going in Potawar, door to door, and registering the patient, and then collecting. We have noticed that there are so many people who can support you. Only you have to be a bit more practical, transparent.
You have to reach out to the people.
You just have to reach. They are available to you. So this is my suggestion that, okay, then again, as my colleagues suggested, there are very nice suggestions bringing all those high-tech arrangements, but the beneficiaries of those high-tech arrangements, the percentage of those beneficiaries are only few thousands, but not in millions. You have a problem, you have a population who are facing this problem, they are in millions, and they are illiterate, they are poor. So my suggestion will be there should be a person-to-person contact, pursue them, and then bring some results.
Absolutely, and that's really very important. Now, that's the situation, and that's the majority of the situation with people suffering within the rural areas. Now, within the, with the more built-up areas, the towns and the cities, that's, technically, supposedly, that's meant to be more educated, more aware. There should be awareness, especially within the cities. Now, when you have the cities that are not all-inclusive or accommodating, how do we now take it forward and make, because it has to start small and then it will get bigger. It's, it's going to be a small like an effect. So how do we start this within the cities? Because like you said, even, parents, in F6, F7 have issues with this. They have issues with their children having glasses, etc. So how do we deal with this, the cultural aspect of it?
I think in reaching out to different geographical spread in Pakistan, one thing that we need to emphasize on, and this can be in a partnership with the government departments and our development partners and all those organizations that want to give back to society, is to pull together a data that gives us exactly what the picture is geographically, gender-wise, in which provinces, and of course the rural and the urban spread of it. Having something like that would feed into Pakistan's objective of meeting the requirements of the visually impaired, exactly to make tailor-made, to have tailor-made solutions based on our provinces and the exact population and the age of the visually impaired persons.
No, that is very wisely said. But do you think that this is what you're saying is important, or creating opportunities for all those people who are visually impaired? If it's 500,000 people, imagine how much can they actually add on to your economy as well. I think that's where we need to look forward to. That's what we need to look forward to, because of the fact that all of these people who have been neglected all of their lives just because of the fact that they couldn't see just like their brothers and sisters, just because of the fact that they couldn't get their education, just because of the fact that they were visually impaired, they never got an opportunity to work or to give back to the society. White Cane Day is an awareness program, or a day where we create awareness just to make them independent, just to make them those proud members of the society who give back to the society as well. So how do we do that? How do we create jobs for them? How do we make this education system inclusive for them? Because that's the way forward.
I wouldn't, I wouldn't agree so much, of course, to everything that you would say. I think...
well, I don't find a reason of you not agreeing.
No. The fact that I think if we look at visual impairment, this is just a physical, it's just a physical stumbling block.
Yeah.
A lot of these people may even beat me and you when it comes to their mental capabilities and IQ.
Exactly.
So this resource, of course, you know, you said it very eloquently, that this resource of population that we have in this country is our biggest assets. Whether be it pursuing higher education, PhDs or masters, they are in no means less than any of our ordinary children. I think a small effort will take us a long way, and I would definitely like to highlight the role of the teachers in basic education as well as in higher education. And whereas a lot of effort needs to be done so that our teachers are trained to help students, the initial stage of basic education for a child is that little push that
You can do
a
it.
visually impaired child needs. Later on, they move on life more independently, and we find them, in fact, way more independent than many of us. So having a teacher who is trained for the visually impaired, or if not available, then just having our regular public school teachers be aware of the needs of the visually impaired is a big step that can take us a long way, and it will give that push to every child
Great. Okay,
who's
Manoj,
making the effort.
I would in fact add that the overall intervention, it's not one or two intervention that we should actually target for. We should have a comprehensive strategy for that, and there are different levels where we could actually apply that strategy, and it should be a multi-sectoral strategy, starting from prevention, then rehabilitation, and then educating the blind children. So at prevention level, there could be, like the other colleagues has mentioned, the awareness and the availability of the nutritious food. That would be the major intervention that could really make a difference. And once we move to the rehabilitation part, early diagnostic and then correcting them and giving medical treatments and whatever the glasses or an important part is, of course, we talked about stigma related to glasses and other things. There are stigmas for so many things, and I think it's important for being a responsible person of the society, for all of us, to help people to come out of these stigmas. And once, due to one or other reason, if the children have become blind, and then we should provide a quality education system. In fact, it's not only the role of the government only. There are schools that are providing this sort of a services, and the blind children are enrolled. But are we providing them a quality education? Are we having a trained teacher? And do we have...
Great. Actually, we've run out of time. Thank you so much for being with us today and discussing the importance of Sight Day and World Cane Day. But all I want to say is that it is about education. It's about awareness. It's about teaching each other. If you see someone, you see that they may not have the resources or the awareness, then you go and tell them about it. Don't preach, but reach out to them. And the thing is, together we can actually overcome it, because a lot of it, with a little bit of donations and charity, with the money focused in the right places, a lot of people can get the operations.
Exactly, very wisely said. And one last thing which I wanted to mention over here is, since we were talking about White Cane Day, so ladies and gentlemen, whenever you see a white cane in somebody's hand, please, first of all, try to help them. Respect them to the most, and tell your kids not to make fun of them as well, because they're already fighting for their own life, for their own survival. Please make sure that you teach this to your kids as well, that whenever you see a white cane, it's foldable as well. Half of the people does not know the reason why people are holding that white cane as well. This is a very basic information, but not quite a lot of people know that.
Exactly. And to be honest, you shouldn't be making fun of anyone, because you don't know what battles they're fighting.
Well, I can make fun of you.
Well, that's fine, because I make fun of you. So with that, do log on to our Facebook fan page,
Which is with the name of Well This Morning.
our Twitter page,
Well This Morning without a G.
our Daily Motion and YouTube
Well
page.
This Morning once again.
And the repeat is at
11 p.m.
have a wonderful day and a brilliant weekend, and we will see you bright and early on Monday.
Till the next time, 1, 2, 3, good
Good
morning.
morning.
Look after yourselves. Thank you very much.